Hey everyone, and welcome to the Diabloherald episode 12. The Diabloherald is a podcast where we talk about everything relating to Diablo and any issues as they relate to the Australian and New Zealand community. I am Huego. Today I have with me Highlander. How you going, Highlander?
Hey. Good, mate. Good.
What you been doing? What you been up to?
Been busy, man, but that's standard.
Yep.
Other than that, just busy. Baby stuff,
With
trying to
real
game
life
if
stuff.
possible. Yeah, spending
Yeah.
time with the wife stuff. Not as much gaming as I'd like.
Well, that sucks.
Been a bad week.
And as always, ZiggyD is with us again. How you going, Ziggy?
Good, thanks, mate.
I'm sure you've been up to some more interesting things.
I've been working for a bit too, but mostly I've been just watching the Steam sales constantly, refreshing that every hour, buying all of the games and playing a few games. I played a few games.
Yep.
Having birthday on the weekend as well, so
Yeah, happy
did
birthday.
some. Thank you. Did some even more Steam game purchasing since it was my birthday. I was like, oh, I can buy even more games. Not that I wasn't not buying them anyway, but it's good fun.
Yeah, that's good. Cool. So I'm just going to jump straight into our topics for today. The first one is Magicfind. So this is actually something that happened a while ago, like 2 weeks ago now. Blizzard have actually come to the community with kind of like a, what do you think we should do? They've given 5 options, and they're sort of just asking everyone's opinion
At the moment.
on what they should do in terms of the gear swapping problem, I guess you'd call it. Some people may not think it's a problem, but basically what's happening is people are swapping gear just before a boss or a champion pack goes down to increase their magic find, and I personally really hate that mechanic because then I end up with all this gear in my inventory taking up half my inventory space, just to swap magic find just before the boss goes down, and half the time I forget to do it anyway, so it's just a pain in the ass and makes me go back to town more often. So yeah, they've come up with 5 options. I guess it's kind of also to show. I mean, the way I see it, it's kind of a way to show the community, like, hey, there's a few different ways we could go about this, and we want your input. Yeah, I'll read out the options and then I'll go to both of you and you can talk about whether you think that option will work or not. So the first option is option 1, set a magic find cap. So they could set the cap at something between like 100 and 200%, which basically means that everyone would be getting some gear to try and hit that cap. So Highlander, do you think that'd work, or do you like this option?
Uh, it's a good option in a few ways. One of the things that they mentioned was that it would well, it could be, what was it, between 100 and 200.
Well, it's
So
not. They didn't really set like a. They didn't say it has to be in this range, but as an
yeah.
example, they said something between that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so the question would be, one, does that include from Valor stack already, or not? And then, it means that the stat will just sort of be less valuable. It's not going to change that people are doing it at all. It's only going to mean that they're just doing it to a lower degree. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like the people that are min-maxing, they're just going to be doing the exact same thing. They're just going to be doing slightly less of it.
Yep.
They'll probably just, you might just do it only your amulet and your helm, and those 2 items will cover the whole lot.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
It kind of seems like it doesn't achieve very much, except for just
Yep.
making it less fruitful. That's all I think.
Yep. How about you, Ziggy? What do you think of that option?
I agree. I agree. I think people would just be carrying one or two items instead of a whole set, and they're still going to be doing magic find switching. But I think people would just be really annoyed at the fact that it's essentially just overall lowering drops, because it's pretty easy to get over the magic find cap when you get to level 60.
Yep.
Like if the cap was somewhere between 100 and 200, maybe like 200 might be a bit harder to get to. But yeah, I don't really think it does anything,
Yep.
much of anything. It's just an overall nerf to magic find.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
And I think that would be like
Boring.
a pretty common complaint. It's like, why even do this to us if you don't actually fix the problem you mentioned?
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I'm not a fan.
Cool. Well, let's go to option 2. So option 2 is slowly adjust magic find over time. It says when you equip an item with magic find, we won't let your magic find percent change right away. Instead, it will slowly drift towards the target, or what it'll be. So it basically takes time. When you put on that plus 40% amulet, it'll take time for that to build up to its max power, I guess. So I'll start with Ziggy this time. What do you think of that option? Think it would work?
It's an interesting one, but it's very ambiguous. Like, you'd have to, I don't know, it sort of makes the game a bit more unclear and that sort of thing. Like, how much magic find am I actually getting? Maybe, like, it allows more chance for, I can, like, maybe for the last 20 seconds of the fight, equip some magic find, stuff like that. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't really think it's going to be fixing anything with that. It's probably a good time for me to mention that I don't actually have a problem inherently with gear swapping, because I think it adds a tactical layer to the game that you can have extra sets of gear that have different properties on them. But just the idea of switching out your gear for the last hit is what bothers me. I think that's a stupid mechanic.
Yep.
So I think that would probably, I don't know, I guess that would stop people from doing that.
Yep.
That's a possible option.
Yep. Yeah, it would definitely make that gear swapping useless.
I seem to recall having more of an issue with this option back when I originally looked at these, but I can't quite remember why. So,
All right.
so bad things.
Yep. What do you think, Highlander?
It's one of the ones that they mentioned in the blog as being a positive was that it would appear in your data sheet instantly, and you'd be able to see it trending. So it would be a clear trend that you don't necessarily need like a degree in Diablo to actually be able to work out. It's going to be going up while you've got that stuff equipped.
Yep.
So that's sort of good in that respect. Apart from that, like generally speaking, I don't really like it because it's just complicated.
Yeah.
This is the one stat that changes on a percentage basis slowly over time.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yep.
Yeah, it's a bit.
If that mechanic was in the game already, maybe it would be a good choice. But
I mean, like people are going to work these things out over time, or the majority of people are going to work these things out over time. But like I was playing with a guy just the other day who was level 60 in Act 2 Inferno, not farming, just farming Act 1, but didn't really until he got into like he'd already been farming Inferno for a while. He didn't actually get the whole Nephilim Valor system, the guy speaks English as a second language, so and I don't know what version his game's in. If it's got I think he's Malaysian, so I don't know if it's got it in his own language. But that's going to be bloody annoying. And every time there's one of these added layers of complication and stuff that you're doing, he wasn't gear swapping at all because he just didn't get that either.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of complication and stuff, and this would just be again one of those added issues.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, let's go to option 3. Use your average magic find percentage or your lowest magic find percentage of the last 5 minutes. So we could sample your magic find percentage every 30 seconds or so and create a moving average, or use the lowest magic find percentage the game has seen on your character in the last few minutes. It's an interesting option. It's a little bit.
Can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
The last thing that they want to do is your average, because you would be running around with your magic find gear, on against trash mobs, then turn it off to fight the champion, and then turn it on to
Right.
to kill the champion.
It's worse than the current system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be the absolute worst thing out of every option that they could possibly do.
Yeah.
It's only sub one, so they might do lowest. But and that one I actually find worse than option 2. I didn't, not a fan of option 2 with the moving one over time, but I'd hate to again be that new player and see my Magicfind go up and then go down and then go up and then go down as it's as it's doing its check. That would just be terrible.
Yep. Yeah, that would be odd. Ziggy, anything else to add to that one?
No, I pretty much agree with Pat on that. It's worse than the current system. Like, having average, maybe like lowest Magicfind percent might work. I don't know why they lump those two options together because they're very different. Like,
yeah, it's quite different. Yeah.
It's like, we have a bill to try and pass today in Parliament. It's the saving babies bill, but there's also a 50% extra tax. We're just going to put those two bills together. So if you want to save babies, you also have to take 50% extra tax.
Doesn't that actually happen all the time? Like,
the old paperclip bills. Let's just stick two together.
I think that happens here like every day.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of option 3. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, but yeah, there's definitely massive exploit chance there for that. And
Yep. Cool. Option number 4: zero out your Magicfind for 3 minutes after swapping gear. That's pretty clear. What do you think of that, Ziggy?
I think this is like the only one that makes sense out of all of these options. The con that I have listed here is that people will freak out because I say zero Magicfind, but that's like not really that much of a con. I can't see people. Maybe people freak out for a little bit. They go to the forums and they search it. They're like, "Why do I have zero Magicfind?" Like, did you just change your gear? And then they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, it seems like the type of
that's,
thing.
That's the end of that problem.
Yeah,
but
probably.
as it says, absolutely effective at discouraging gear swaps. So I think there's a better option that's not listed here, but I think that's their best option that they've listed.
But what about, like you were saying, having situations where you swap gear for other reasons, whether it's for a different build or swapping a shield out or something like that? Would it only be for items with Magicfind on them? Or?
Yes, because this would affect that as well, like changing from dual wield to a weapon and a shield or something. How would you get around that? Because this is a good system if you're not counting that fact, and I want that extra tactical layer of being able to sub a shield in, so...
Yeah.
Maybe I changed my mind, maybe this isn't a good idea.
Highlander, have you got any thoughts on that? You're looking very thoughtful.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it as the zeroing out your MF for 3 minutes after swapping gear. Like, when I've been thinking about it, not looking at the actual post, it was you wouldn't get the benefit for 3 minutes. So, yeah, in my head, this sounded great.
Yeah.
Until you said a moment ago, you zero out your MF when you swap in a shield.
Yeah.
Well, for your offhand or whatever. So, well, what are you doing? You're creeping me out. Sorry.
That's all right.
Anyways, yeah. So that's vertical commando roll behind me. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this was originally my favorite option if you wanted to do anything with the current system.
Yep.
Just, it hard counters it. And I'm kind of if you're going to do something about it, I'm kind of the opinion that, yeah, you kind of just want to have a hard counter. You just want to smash it in the face.
Yep.
Yeah, if it works on all gear, I mean, that makes it really hard. Maybe, they could do a combination of, say, 3 and 4, use your lowest MF of the last 5 minutes if you swap gear.
Yep.
That would work. As it is with this, yeah, if you're going to kill gear swapping in any form, it's a possibility, whilst it wouldn't affect that many people, I don't think. Yeah, I'd hate to take that tool away from people. in a general sense.
Yep. I wonder
think
how much does that sort of thing utilized, though? I mean,
gear swapping,
yeah.
like in terms of like a weapon and shield and stuff.
Yep.
It's pretty niche. Like I think it's underutilized at the moment, but there's definitely the options there, and I think some people are using it, and I use it occasionally in hardcore to like
Yep.
have a shield for if I come up against some tougher stuff, because it can make a huge difference subbing in a shield. And then when you're just working through trash mobs, you just have your dual wielding just for the extra DPS.
Yep.
But
So,
it just takes away tactical depth from the game, and I think the game needs that
Yep.
depth.
It's sort of
Like Diablo 2 had it.
yeah. It's a similar kind of feeling though to the feeling you get about skills with Nephilim Valor, because you have to stick to a bunch of skills. It would just mean that you'd have to stick to a set of gear as well, which is basically the same thing. I think it's not as there's not as much punishment though when you're switching gear, because it's only for 3 minutes. It's not like you lose 5 stacks of Nephilim Valor. But yeah, it's a similar sort of idea. I think people would probably start thinking about gear the way they think about their builds, as something that has to span across, killing everything.
I don't think that many people actually swap their gear at all. I mean, it needs to, again, like the tactical advantage has to offset you having your best stuff as well. And even with the auction house in Diablo 3, because you're not just finding stuff, you're specifically selecting most of your gear upgrades. People don't tend to have the one hand and then their offhand, like Mojo in my case as a witch doctor, and then also have a shield that's really awesome that they happen to find. If they found a really awesome shield, they would have sold it so they could afford a better weapon in the first instance.
Yep.
So I don't think it happens as much even as it did in Diablo 2. This would be the perfect option if they had weapon swapping.
Yeah. Right.
And it's so annoying to hear, to see this going on as it is. And Jay Wilson saying in development, well, we didn't want people having that weapon swap because people just used it for Magicfind. It's just like, well, look at the options you're proposing now. These are retarded. And, just if they bring back the weapon swap, option 4 is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's certainly the best option. And the only other issue then is, do you have a problem with the current system at all? And that's another separate discussion, which I won't sit on right now. I'll save it.
Let's look at 5 for a lol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So option 5 is gear swapping interacts with Nephilim Valor. How exactly does this work?
All right. Imagine a world where
Starting.
Imagine a world where
you're going through, you're sorting your inventory, and then you right click instead of left clicking, and bam, there goes the last 15 minutes of building up your Nephilim Valor. Think of the rage. How freaking annoying would that be?
Yep.
That's not a good option.
Yep.
I can't think of any time where I've actually done that, but that would really annoy me. And I'd even be more anxious as I'm sorting, I wouldn't just be going boom, 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 boom. It'd be, don't make a mistake here. You'll cost yourself your magic find.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to identify stuff out in the field, would you?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
But just look at the page though. Look at the pros. They've got one sentence there, and look at the cons list. it's like 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
I think what happened was they're like, okay, we need 5 options to give to the community, and they're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all, we'll consider these options. Like, no, we don't have the 5th option. Nephilim Valor, something, and then they're like, yeah, put that on there. Make the other options seem better by comparison.
The one thing that they didn't mention as a pro, which they should have, is it means that your system is consistent with skill swapping, which is just a goodness thing. It's good to have consistency, and that would become intuitive. But yeah, it fell so hard in all the other ways. And it's just, like they even say we could put a confirmation box in to address the accidental loss of a stack, and it's just like, do that for the frickin' skills.
Yeah.
Or, give us the options to not do that without having to
Eight
use...
Xboxes popping up in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, no,
playing.
that's terrible. But, we have to turn on elective mode to make sure that we don't do that now, which is just, again, it's so daft. No one would think of that if
we didn't have forums and Reddit and stuff to
Yeah,
tell us
exactly. That's right. Like, I wouldn't think of that, no way. Or I'd go elective mode. Why would anyone in their right mind use elective mode?
and you'd never see that option ever again.
I mean, it was like, you still saw, like, comments in for Kriparian beating Inferno on hardcore, saying he's hacking because he's using 2 aggressive skills or whatever.
Yeah, actually,
That's
I got a comment on one of my videos the other day saying, "Oh, what? How are you using like these two skills? They're both in the
It blows
same
my mind.
slot." It's like elective mode. It's in the options, and
Yeah.
it was even a reply to the comment saying, "Where in the options?" I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna bother with that. If you can't find it,
Man, you gotta
then
educate them.
Dude, that should tell you, make a video on how to turn off elective mode.
that's a good idea.
I think there's like 1,500 of them already. Just
Make a
people
video.
don't know the look. I guess.
Make a video on how to search
I
on
know.
Google how to find elective mode.
Awesome.
So let's talk about our I don't know if you have an idea, Pat, but I have like another idea of what I think should be a 6th option on that menu.
All right.
My idea is just to roll with the current system and make it equalize in just having a button switch is between 2 gear sets. Like, people are already doing it. Instead of like fighting against something, you can just roll with it. Like, and then it puts everyone on equal footing.
Yeah, that still annoys me though because it still takes up half my inventory space with Magicfind gear, which
Maybe even like a Diablo 2 style one where you have an alternate thing where you can have another set of gear equipped.
yeah,
Maybe like not an entire set of gear, but maybe like even, I don't know,
yep,
maybe an entire set of gear.
yep,
To instead go with the flow
Yep.
would be a 6th option, I think.
yep.
I don't know. Do you have any ideas? What?
Well, I developed one over the course of this, which is just bring back weapon switch. I don't like the whole gear switch. It's like, well, what if I don't want to switch my boots? Do I need to have separate boots or not? Like, how does that work? It just sounds really complicated. I don't know how they do it in WoW. I did hear that they do that in WoW, but
that's where the came from.
Yeah,
it just sounds hyper complicated. Just bring back weapon swapping. There's a precedent for it. The reason you didn't want it is here. Weapon swapping was cool because not everyone used it for Magicfind, whereas a system like that one where it's a full gear swap would just be stick your Magicfind gear on.
yep.
I think you might be right, combining, like, bring back weapon swapping and combine it with, like, your average weapon, or whatever it is, zeroing out your MF or something.
Yeah, I mean, they can zero it out because you're going to be swapping your weapon in for that last hit. Or,
So
people...
combine that.
Because weapon swapping is sweet in other ways as well, like the swap your shield, things like that. That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
So that's what I would love to see. But at first, it's taken a while for me to think about why I don't like the current system as well. And I do think I do need to do something. None of these really satisfy me completely,
Yep.
and I can't imagine them actually sticking in weapon swapping either.
Yep.
So if they force me into a poll and what I would actually select out of these, I'd be really stuck. I kind of don't like them all for kind of different reasons. I know option 5 would not be one I'd vote for. But yeah, I don't know, maybe zero out your Magicfind for 3 minutes after swapping gear.
Yep.
Because I don't gear swap and I don't know anyone who does. Except for...
You know me.
Yeah. I don't know anyone I like who's... So yeah, I mean, that's probably the one I would lean towards. And I'm sure they've got stats on how often it actually happens.
Yep.
The other thing would be, it's like that would be another really annoying thing for the whole item system as it is currently, being so bad in terms of when you find something good. The way it is now, you rarely use it. You get all your stuff off the auction house. How terrible would it be? Is I just found that really good item, but I'm not going to swap it now. I'll wait till the start of my next session because I don't want to lose my MF for 3 minutes.
It's already a big problem with immediacy in the game. Like, you don't get that immediate feeling of reward when you kill something. It just extends on that problem more.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I get what you were saying before, ZiggyD, about in terms of you want people to be able to use that skill. And I'm sort of like of the, and yes, sure, you do need a bit of extra APM to, pull back from the fight a little bit and then do the gear swap. But on the flip side, I kind of argue that it takes less skill or less gear in terms of, you're strong just because you've got gear, not necessarily because you're skillful. But, less overall strength, because the important thing is relative finds, more so than just finds, because I want to improve, how good I am relative to everyone else. Beating the game isn't that hard. It's being more awesome than other people that really extends your EPN. But, it's if I'm so good that I can run around with 200 MF all the time, then I want to be getting items that much faster than somebody who doesn't have that level of strength. Because people can, have as much MF as I can, as Crip can, by, just doing that click, 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 click.
Yep.
It sort of makes MF being on gear pointless, the fact that people are gear switching. I think that's the major issue with it.
Yeah.
And if it was, I trade off between, I could get this, like, 90% good gear with MF and get some better loot from when I'm farming and still have it be decent gear, rather than just taking your awesome gear and then having crappy MF gear.
Yeah, it's kind of like it trades off the, loss in power that you would get from using gear that had MF on it with a loss in inventory space. Does that make sense?
Which is what who cares? What's an inventory slot?
Yeah. It's
think about people that, people when we had charms, their whole inventory was full for like bar 2 slots. That was it, or what was it? Because the system back then, it was like 16 squares or something. But it was that they'd just have barely any room, and the rest of it was full of charms. If it gives you a 2% MF increase, people are going to have it in there.
Yep.
Which is part of the reason why I don't like it ticks up slowly over time.
Yep.
Because it just means people will do it once the fight's decided, as opposed to, once in the last couple of seconds.
Yep.
Once they've beaten 2 out of 3 champions or so.
Yep. What about do you guys remember the talisman? Was that going to have anything to do with MF? You remember what that was?
I think straight up like charms, which could be MF, could be whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, it sort of has inherently the same problem as gear, in that you could just be switching out your charms.
Yep.
At the same as you're switching out gear, because it is still a slot that you always have in your character for this certain amount of benefit, or and you trade off between benefits. You could fill that charm slot with heaps of combat effectiveness, or you could fill it with MF. It's still exactly the same problem.
But what if it was like a socket where it costs you gold to switch whatever,
and you couldn't do it on the field?
Yeah,
possibly.
But what if your MF was zeroed out until you did a town trip or something? Because wouldn't that reset that'll reset the pack if you're in town for 2? It won't reset the pack if you're in a group.
Since they reduced it to 7 seconds, I think you can't do a town running back in time before they reset.
Yeah, it'd be hard. Be hard to do.
People used to do that, but I don't think you can anymore.
So that could be maybe building around that mechanic.
Interesting.
I was thinking the other day though, and I really do want them to do something with the current system, because I hadn't been playing for ages, and I just come back after not playing for like a week, and it was just and I wasn't switching to my gear because it was just like things were really hectic, and I was playing with my brother who's really intolerant, and he he was getting really frustrated, and it's like, well, imagine, when I'm playing pubs, it's, uh, I might do it, I might not. It depends on how skillful my friends seem to be, and are they pulling back at the last minute or not. And it's just, Blizzard has this whole thing about removing anxiety in games, and between people, and it does create anxiety with the current system. You're pulling back, but the other guys finish him off before you get to do your switch. The other guys aren't switching at all. The way it isn't good, and I would take. Whilst it would be frustrating, I would take pretty much any of options 2, 3, and 4 as probably being an improvement over the current system.
Yep.
Just because I can't stand that interpersonal anxiety, because you slightly stuff something up.
Yep. You obviously haven't played WoW. That game's full of that stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, I definitely don't play MOBA games.
No, WoW.
No, I understand. I also don't play MOBA games.
I see.
The same interpersonal anxiety.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Cool. So is anything else you guys wanted to mention on that? I think we've pretty much covered it there.
So do we actually get a final opinion? Like, do we want to get a final option? What you'd want if you had to select it in a poll? I'm going with 4.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Lock it.
Sorry, yeah. 4.
I'm gonna go with 4 as well for that one, despite my gear switching concerns. But
yeah, I think
it's still the best option on there.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely be able to live with 4 the most. I think if that was just in the game from the beginning, I probably wouldn't have thought twice about it. Probably would just, feels the same as the National Valor, sort of. So, cool. The next thing on my list, I'm using paper. Ooh.
It's Notepad, but not Notepad.
No.
The original Notepad, made by trees. Patch 1.0.3b, there wasn't really much in it, but there was something that kind of led on to another conversation. Commodities being sold in the real money auction house, and soon after the patch, gold being sold in the real money auction house as well. We talked about this when it happened. It seemed a while ago now, but I know we had an interesting conversation, so I thought we should talk about it on the podcast. And yes, I don't remember what we talked about. I think there was the whole bot bandwave thing that happened at the same time, which I thought might have made the black market money go up. Not money go up. The cost of gold on the black market go up because it went up to higher than it was on the real money auction house, I believe. Remember, Ziggy?
Okay.
What happened?
So all of these things, sort of the patch, the gold become available, and the bot bandwave all sort of happened at the same time. We didn't really know that the bot bandwave and gold was going on the auction house. All we saw was patch 1.0 whatever, and the disappointing patch notes with almost nothing in it. In fact, the only thing that was in that patch notes of worth, that was noteworthy, was the fact that they removed the ability to watch items in the real money auction house, which the day before I made a video on showing people how to do.
Yep.
So it's just like, oh, really? and then the next day we found out, that this whole thing was in preparation of, they were actually doing this hidden side of the patch for some reason, where they were banning a bunch of bots, and apparently they got a lot of bots. Like, people were getting on botting forums and stuff like that and saying, I've been running 50 bots for ages, and they've all been banned, every single one of them. Even like accounts they had that they were siphoning gold through. And along with the price floor of gold in the real money auction house being 25 cents per 100k, which is $2.50 per million, and the bot banning wave, the price of black market gold went back up to a little over $2 when it was like 80 cents a million on the black market before then on some places.
Okay.
So it's done some crazy stuff to the market. and yet there's still a massive disparity between items and the value of gold. So
Yep.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
What have you noticed from it, Pat? You've been doing your market watch.
Yeah, it's our commodities are coming like much more in line. They seem to be evening out with each other more, I find now. But it's interesting because it's just like I really enjoy that they've put a price floor on it because it's fun to watch it fail. Um, and it's just like it's straight up economics 101 when it's like if you put a floor on something, two things happen. One, you get a black market for that thing, and two, people use alternatives. And it's it's kind of there's not quite an alternative in the form of gold because it's like that's that one thing that's supposed to do that one thing, but you can always trade into something else and trade back. So people are using commodities for that to a degree, which is they were used to doing already. So I wouldn't be surprised if our fiery brimstone's being used in that way because it's the only thing that kind of values above its own floor.
Yep.
Because having what is it? It's is it 25 cents for a fiery? Sorry, no, 25 cents as a floor for a single subtle essence. Like that's just daft.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Like it's just why even be able to trade it? It's stupid. So yeah, that makes fire and brimstone the only thing that actually kind of works as a commodity in that way. And if you want to use the advantages of trading as a commodity, that's sort of it's the replacement for actually having gold.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it kind of doesn't really do much, except it helps people who just wanted to straight up buy gold. They don't really care too much about their money.
Yep.
I wonder. I haven't had 100k to spare, but if I did, I'd just be very interested to see like how quickly it would actually go because
apparently it's not been going very quickly. Like lots of people saying their gold has been up for 25 cents for a long time and not sold maybe like 6 hours or a day or a couple of days for some people. So
yeah, well, I mean, there must be a queue that's just long as. Because the only people that would be buying it would be the people that have no idea or no care.
Right.
So what's actually done is stabilized the black market, essentially having this price floor. It's kept it around like they're still shuffling for their own competition, all the different cells and stuff, but their price is sort of sitting around $2 or just under $2 now. So and that's probably not going to change until Blizzard removes their floor or lowers their floor, which I think they will do.
I'd say it's the bot ban that made that stabilize more than anything else.
Well, I think it only takes like 1 or 2 weeks for botting to get back to the point of overinflation for supply. And I don't really think I still think they had plenty of supply going on.
But they needed to buy accounts, didn't they?
Yeah.
So now that they know that whatever they were doing before now can get banned, like that's also going to have to factor into their risk on their investment sort of thing.
I think they could have been banned at any point, but
exactly.
They just wanted to do it all at once, so it took that chunk of gold out of the economy because then it takes a few weeks for that amount of gold to get back into the economy through botting.
Yeah,
like it's gonna the exact same thing's gonna happen, and they're gonna have to do another ban wave to just clear it all out.
Yeah,
but
Oh, and that makes perfect sense. Let all the botters buy as many accounts as they want, and then we'll ban them before it really starts to matter. So that's fine. I mean, it's been annoying for us having to endure it for weeks, which is like decades in gamer years. But it's I get it. I get why they do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think that's the bigger issue. I don't think that the price floor is really going to be making that big a difference for too long.
So this might be a bit of a stupid question, but I'm sure there's people out there that are just as stupid as I am. So can you speculate as to why they would have put the gold floor or the price floor for gold into the game?
ZiggyD?
It could be that they just want to, they don't want it to deflate too quickly, and I think they might intend on eventually lowering the floor to something more sustainable, but because there's such an issue now, like even still after the ban wave, there's still an issue with botters and things like that and overinflation of gold. So I think they want to just try to keep it stable just through that forced approach. It's like what countries do when they put price floors or whatever on, or tariffs and stuff on, or they don't let their currency float. It's just they're trying to keep it at a certain price. It doesn't actually work in the long run, but I think it's just like a temporary measure to keep it stable. And I don't know, maybe they want to cover their costs a bit more, make a bit more profit, do some price skimming for a little while.
But it doesn't make
for
any
the
sense.
people.
I mean, they're not making money when they're not getting their 15% when no one buys gold through the system.
Well, I think there's still a good chunk of people that will buy at 25 cents for a while, and that's the price skimming from like marketing terms, where they get the top level people who are willing to pay that, and then they'll just lower it down and get people who actually want to trade gold more.
I suppose
on a more consistent basis.
When it's something that's never really been done before, maybe they're just trying to see, what buying the gold legitimately is worth to people. Like, is it worth it to people to go and buy it legitimately and pay that much more, or would people prefer to go to the black market, take a risk and spend less money?
Okay, I've got my theory. I got it. So they didn't want to have transactions that were too small, which I get, and they just were incompetent beyond there.
Competent?
Incompetent. So, it's just like one subtle essence, it was the minimum number of subtle essences you can buy. That makes sense.
Yep.
Right? And, they put a floor on that. Well, they don't want to have transactions that are too small, so 25 cents. And then that's it. Mm-hmm. And it's just that...
They didn't put those two together kind of thing.
Well, like, I don't know. I can't... I don't...
It doesn't make sense.
Nothing makes sense. And, like, they do some things that are just... Like, I love Blizzard so much, and they make the best games of all time, and I love this game. But they do some things that are just... I don't get at all. And
is that just with Diablo, or with all the games?
No, that's not just with Diablo.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, no, but I think with Diablo, more stuff interacts with other stuff, and they seem to fiddle more with things. But like, the best example I can think of from a StarCraft perspective is why they messed with APM. That just was beyond me. And this, seems to make about as much sense to me. You're right. Like, no one's doing it on this scale. No one. So there's like free to play stuff that would be the closest thing to what they're doing now. But in terms of like the market basedness of it all, and the scale in which they're doing it, there's nothing quite like this. So I'd understand them putting it at their building in the minimum price for that reason, and I wouldn't put it past them to just not have figured that out and just be too slow to act on it.
I don't think you give them enough credit. I think they really just want to retain the value of gold, because there is this set amount of gold that the average player who's not potting can get, like, per day or whatever. And decreasing the price floor for gold essentially makes it less and less lucrative to actually play the game and just to buy gold. Like,
that doesn't make any sense.
There's something going on there. I'm thinking of like the interaction between the amount of gold that people can get and the value of that gold. They want to retain value of gold. That's the only step.
If you've got somebody and they've been playing a whole lot, and but they've just been playing by themselves and they've saved up like 1.5 mil. They haven't even been using the gold auction house. Like, that's totally a reasonable thing to be able to do, and they want to be able to sell that for whatever 1.5 times $2.50 is worth. $3.75. Wow, I'm so smart. Anyway, they want them to be able to do that, but it's not selling. Like, they're going to sit on it for days until they get to the front of that queue. That doesn't make any sense. Trying to increase the amount that they get doesn't make any sense, because they're just driving people to the black market that they swore was the whole reason for doing this in the first place. I can't put it past anything apart from silliness. Maybe it needs to get signed off by the director. Heck, I'm trying to make, withdrawals from certain products for, clients, and it's just like, oh no, this will actually take 3 weeks because it needs to get signed off by God or something, like they're a corporate business. Maybe it has too much admin and bureaucracy to actually get a approved. That was what got approved before release, and that's what it'll be until someone actually analyzes it enough.
Someone
like
who
Mike
knows
Morheim.
nothing about the game.
Yeah.
Oh no.
The only logical thing that they could do really is to just have a flexible amount. Have like a $2.50 minimum trade value of gold, and then just have a flexible amount that you can sell that for. So you can do a 10 million batch for $2.50, and same with
that's how they
commodities. Like
sell their
have essences be 1,000 for 25 cents or something.
Yeah.
Allow people the option to trade in bulk like that, because that's the only way that can possibly be in any way sustainable, and things will actually sell that way.
Yeah, so maybe it'll be like, you pay 25 cents and you get as many units as you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Those units as the market is allowed.
Rather than having the minimum per unit and the unit being set to 1 or 100,000 for gold.
It's more confusing. It's counterintuitive. I don't know. I can imagine them not wanting, people to buy one subtle essence for 1 cent, every time they need it. That does make sense.
Well, that's why you have like a minimum amount that they can trade dollar-wise, as in the minimum dollar trade is $1. Well, the minimum, that's what it currently is $1. The minimum that you can do as a purchase.
Oh, right. So, even
it's
if
$1.
it's got
but you could have that $1 be worth however many essences the market dictates.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah. So $1 could be 1,000 essences, or
so
it could be
a minimum
100.
trade, yeah. And
Yes. That's
so
all
if
I
the
need.
price just spiked for subtle essences, to $1.10, then that would work out just fine. You're just buying one with your $1.10. That makes sense.
I like free market economics, and I think the market should sort itself out.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool.
So, with that, kind of sprung this on you, Pat. But did you want to do your market watch segment? Are you sufficiently prepared?
Oh, well, it's just
We kind of half talked.
the watch I'll do on my own channel. You don't get the watch.
Oh.
But I will do a tip.
Okay. Yeah.
So, do you have a sound effect for me?
I do. I just got to make sure
so
I hit
cool.
the
I've
right
never
one.
had a sound effect just for me.
And there it is.
It's happened.
It's happened.
We can't tell.
Yeah. Alright, so welcome to my first sound effect and my tip on the market. So one tip I am employing this week is I have no gaming time for my softcore character this week. So I am listing all of my items that are remotely decent and would be valued at more than $7 or so on the Real Money Auction House. So I sold my weapon yesterday. My gloves, they're on the market. My mojo is on the market. And one of my Magicfind items that I think is pretty good is on the market as well. All of the rest of my gear is just no one would buy. It's not that good. But why would I do this? Well, sure, I'm going to pay a $1 fee, but I will lock in the worth in something that won't deflate. So I'm going. So my weapon sold for $30.
Mm-hmm.
So $30 today is worth what my weapon was. It was a 1130 DPS sword, and now I locked in $30 instead. And in a week from now, when I've actually got time to play softcore again, then $30 will almost certainly buy more than a 1130 DPS sword. It's just all items are just trending downwards as time goes on. It's just quite consistent, and as long as the PvP patch doesn't come out between now and then, or something else that I'm missing doesn't happen, then I should be safe. So it's if you want to protect yourself against inflation, lock it in something that will not deflate.
Yeah.
Sorry,
right.
deflation, isn't it? Depends on whether you're talking about it in terms of gold or whether you're talking about it in terms of US dollars.
Gold
if you're talking about it, gold's inflating, but if you're looking at items in terms of US dollars, items are deflating. So if you want to protect yourself against deflation, you can do that. So that's my tip.
It's very
US
good.
dollar's the only thing not going down in the game.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it funny how the real world and the online world differ so much?
People should have done that when the Real Money Auction House came out. sold everything and just rebought everything in a couple of weeks' time or a
Oh, well,
week's
people
time.
were doing it. People were doing it. But like, and I had a really hard call because it was like, I was thinking about doing it on Friday. I was like, I don't know how much time I'm going to get in on the weekend. Is it worth it? And sometimes I do this and I kind of stuff it up a bit, or I don't find a bargain to rebuy before too long. So I end up like stealing my two-hander off my Enchantress for a while. The two-hander off the Enchantress, which is so crappy compared
I really like that, but that's cool. You can like just do this every week.
Yeah, I kind of do. So
That's pretty clever, man. Congrats. That's
Yeah,
good. I
very
like it.
good. Cool.
tip sorted.
Blows the mind. I have to sell stuff on the Real Money Auction House. I can't believe I haven't done it yet. Yep. Cool. Now, does Ziggy have a hardcore tip for us?
I do have a hardcore tip. You're going to flash up my picture.
Yeah, sure.
Help, please.
I'm going to assume it's up. Hooray!
Yep.
Blah. Okay, my tip today is one of the top most super basic, fundamental, beginner, hardcore tips. So it's a good starting point, I think. It's pretty simple. Do not resume game. That's it. If you leave the game midway through a quest, even if you quit the game when you're in town, when you get back into the game, you're going to respawn at the last checkpoint, and this is usually out in the wilds. And as the rule seems to be in hardcore mode, this will be surrounded by a champion pack, probably something with like Molten, Arcane, Wall, or Frozen as well. So when you play a hardcore game again, first go in and change the quest to the start of the quest or the most recent checkpoint that was in town. So you might have to familiarize yourself with different quests a little bit, but it's always a safe option to go back to the very start of the quest because then you will be back in town. And this especially matters as you're getting upwards into the higher levels of hardcore when you are going to... I have spawned into games with champion packs like in normal and nightmare mode and almost been killed from it there, so it's definitely going to happen a lot in the high levels.
Yeah. Yep. I've definitely
Presume, have you guys...
Yeah.
You've probably seen that in softcore, but not really cared. Like,
Yeah. It's one of those things.
I wouldn't have thought of that until I died.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's too late for hardcore.
Yes.
You need to think of that before you die.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if there's... It must be that not every waypoint is a checkpoint, because I've made it to a waypoint and finished the game there, but then resumed it later, and it takes you back to like the last area, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I've already passed this bit, and then you just town portal to town and go down the waypoint. It's very odd.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10 you'll spawn and the checkpoint and there'll be nothing around you, like there won't even be trash mods. But then other times I've spawned once and had like a champion pack and an elite or whatever, the gold and the blues pack spawned right there on the checkpoint. And like surrounded by that, and I'm like, whoa, that's bad. Why didn't I change quest? You have to remember, do it. I reckon the best time to do it is probably when you actually leave a game before you close the game, so you don't have to remember next time.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's it's one of those things that when you come across it in softcore, it's kind of like, oh man, that's so annoying. What, they need to fix this. What the hell? And then in hardcore, it's like really bad.
I'm an idiot.
It's like, whoa.
You can only blame yourself in hardcore for that one, because it's like hardcore's all about being prepared, and that's like outside of the game meta preparation.
Well, that's why we have.
So that's my tip for this week. My super basic fundamental one.
Very good.
I'm not going to remember to do that ever.
Not bad. I know we haven't been doing it on our group hardcore playthrough.
Yeah, I suppose because I'll mix it up as well. Once you get that habit of just clicking that resume game button so quickly, that's going to be trouble.
Yep. Cool. Well, I think that's about it. So not too long, but definitely full of some good information. So I'm pretty happy with that show. Is there anything else you guys wanted to mention, either of you? Anything else cool that happened?
I feel like we're kind of waiting for some news, really, this week.
Yeah, there's
waiting for either Magicfind or some patch notes to crop up.
Yep.
I think they might happen at the same time. The Magicfind change might be announced, if they're going to change something after all that. Assume they will. Yeah,
well, we haven't heard anything. We're still waiting on that end game post.
It's been about 10 days since anything significant come out. The only thing that's really happened in the past week has been there's been some auction house exploits and some unidentified items. If you're buying unidentified items, don't buy them for a while, because there's an exploit where people can see how many properties are on the unidentified items before they sell them. So they sell you crappy 5 prop items instead of 6 prop ones.
Wow. I heard there was a trade chat, not trade chat, trade window, some kind of trade window exploit as well. I don't know.
Yeah, in general, don't use the trade chat window, because there seems to be like 5 new exploits every week for that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the first one was like super basic, like when people, because they didn't know to right click, were dragging their weapons across, the other guy would hit the X button so that you'd like drop your weapon, and like then they'd just be on the ground, they'd pick it up and run off.
Oh, no way.
Super simple. Like, so that one, you avoid it by right clicking, but then they're doing something because there's no confirmation.
Again, still, like, you need to be like good, like to know to right click. Like I haven't traded with anyone who's not a friend.
Average player's not going to know that sort of thing. Yeah. And heaps of people got stung from that. There's heaps of stuff on the forums for it. Mm-hmm. And then there's like other ones surrounding the like sort of like Diablo 2 style, switching items at last moment because there's no confirmation window. And even like if trading gold, I'd like just remove a 0 before you can click the button. Stuff like that. And then there's some more nefarious ones which they haven't released details on how they were done, because they were like pretty serious exploits. Yeah, some pretty bad ones. Really avoid it.
No.
Use the auction house.
Yeah,
but then
exactly.
The auction house has a problem as well, where someone did a UI hack and switched the buttons around in the auction house, so they were buying out for your minimum bid price.
Did that get fixed?
We haven't heard anything about it. The threads were deleted.
Really?
Jeez.
Yeah, that's all. Nothing heard about it. So they're like, obviously they've recognised it, and they will probably hotfix it, I guess. But
yeah, I listed my sales for all my real gear. All the gear I listed on the Real Money Auction House for either same or very, very close to, much closer than I normally would have.
I always do it for the same on the gold auction house, so I'd probably do the same thing on the Real Money Auction House.
Well, no, I reckon there's value in like putting it a little bit lower. Let somebody try and get a bargain or something if they want.
I guess in the end, even if someone exploits it, you're not going to be too.
Yeah, as long as it's high enough.
Yeah.
It depends on like whether you're trying to.
Don't do your 99-cent bids.
Yeah, no.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess we'll call it there. Thanks for listening to the Diabloherald episode number 12. If you want to see previous episodes or other videos that we put up, you can find it at youtube.com/Diabloherald. You can also find us on Twitter at Diabloherald, and you can send me an email, diabloherald@gmail.com. Please do send an email if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about on the show. We can definitely answer some mail
I love
stuff.
questions. Send questions.
Yeah. ZiggyD does stuff on YouTube. What do you do on YouTube, Ziggy?
I make videos on YouTube, believe it or not. I'm ZiggyD StarCraft on YouTube, so that's basically just go to that. I have another channel, but that's the Diablo one there, so check that out. I'm also ZiggyD StarCraft on Twitter, and I tweet like crazy. I'm like trying to hit my 5,000 tweet or 50,000 tweet or something pretty soon, so go check those out. Something like that.
That's a lot of tweets.
Ridiculous.
It's a good thing there's no Twitter achievements. Oh, that would be bad.
Almost 5,000, sorry, not 50,000.
Jeez, I could imagine them Facebook or something doing that. Like, you've written on 200 people's walls. Congratulations. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
What would happen?
As if that's not spammy enough already.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear. And Highlander, what do you do with yourself?
Yes. I do things on YouTube as well. I mainly troll people in comment sections on random videos, but in between that, I do have a channel which does stuff on achievements, and lately I've been doing just a bit of a market watch series for the Diablo 3 auction house. So that the first proper installment should be going up tonight, and my last video was just explaining my methodology for said market watch series. So if you want to see what's happened, what's gone up, what's gone down this week in the Diablo 3 markets, come check me out. And everything else is about achievements or stuff that's incredibly awesome. So if you're interested in either of those things, then definitely do check me out as well. And Twitter at Highlander SC.
Cool. Well, that'll do. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
Bye.
See you guys, it was fun.